Okay, so the stream is live. They can hear you. You got the visual up. I thought we'd warm up first before we quote unquote officially start the Spanish Inquisition about these questions we have all written down. I don't know how y'all doing. How's the day going for each of you? Mark?
It's going good for me, man. We haven't done one of these in a while, but so I feel like this is long overdue. But it's nice to catch up. You know, a lot of things going on in the scene. But a big Mamma Jamma yesterday came through with finally they gave us the news about the input lag fix is dropping in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, you mentioned.
I'm obviously very happy about this because I'm going to win Capcom Cup Last Chance Qualifier because a couple of extra frames. Obviously, everyone knows that my actions are very strong, and
I don't know, man. I saw you in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike on PS4 Online. The input delay is atrocious on that, and you learned how to whiff punish in no time. I think you got it, man. Top 8 Evo, here he comes. He ain't BornFree no more. It's Born Top 8.
Born fucking Top 8. That has a ring to it.
All right, well, I was going to do like a countdown and just change slides, but I guess we can just get into the subject matter at the whole point of the thing here. And that is exactly what we're talking about. Input delay for Street Fighter 5. It was just announced on Twitter. I'm going to pull it up on screen here. So the tweet states, "We are aware of your concerns regarding inputs and will improve the speed at which inputs are registered in the update coming on 10/23. That's October 23 in 13 days. We'll be sure to update you on future improvements for Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition. Thank you for your continued support." I wanna point out how long this game has been out. I don't know the exact date, but I know it's somewhere between 2 and 3 years. We have seen
I think it was the end of February, wasn't it? 2016. But there was a beta. There was a beta which lasted like fucking 6 months before that. Ever since E3.
Right. So the question is, why hasn't been this done sooner? Maybe it couldn't have been done sooner. And why is it, if it was adjusted, why was it then like not talked about as, we got something more to improve on? I don't know how to really perceive or interpret their social media aspect of their marketing strategy, because it's such a known problem. It's like the meme at this point to point out.
I just want to say, I've done a few videos on this, and I think that it's a reflection of how they were operating internally. It could be the focus. It could be for fighting games. It could be the budget they have. It could be the timeline they had. There's all sorts of types of crazy ass pressures internally that we don't see, right? And it could be the goals that they had as well. So, for instance, they released Street Fighter 5 out of nowhere, right? They were just like, boom, here it is, boom, it's out, and it was an esports platform instead of like a fully developed, fully rounded game. And there are probably a number of different reasons for that, but I imagine there are very specific pressures, and it seemed to me like they didn't have the resources all the time to actually... They're constantly playing catch-up is basically what's been going on, I think.
Yeah, it almost feels like the game balance came secondary. I mean, you have to balance all these different goals, and when you have all these different goals in mind, like, how is this game going to even survive in the market that it exists in? It needs to be accessible. A lot of people, people have to play your game or else nobody's going to care and you won't get the support you need. So how can you facilitate that environment for your players? And then you have these other goals, like, well, one of its strengths in advertisement are these tournaments. It's getting a lot of viewership just because of people playing it competitively. So maybe they can bank on that idea. So how do we make this an esports game that everybody wants to play? And then you have all these other moving parts and factors that they have to attempt to tweak and balance, and still keep in mind we can't do everything at once. Maybe down the road things are going to change. I mean, I don't know how you do everything correct in a fight. I don't think you can. It's just going to be mistakes.
This is what I think happened, right? This is my theory from outside looking in, right? Having worked with clients who are a mess and regions who don't talk to each other and miscommunications and shit like that. Basically, usually the product is a reflection of what's going on internally. I think recently, a lot of good things have probably happened internally. it's possible that this move that this guy Ryozo, who used to run Monster Hunter, who moved over to run fighting games, potentially that guy is taking more responsibility for the fighting games that Street Fighter. But I think before, to me, Street Fighter 5 felt a little bit like nobody took ownership for it. Even Ono never felt like Ono was ever really took ownership for Street Fighter 5. You know,
So weird.
And hence I think what happens is when you don't have a strong leadership of a game, or if you have a breakdown of communication, or you have regions blaming each other. Do you remember when Capcom Japan put out that statement saying they weren't at fault because Capcom USA basically had promised a character every 2 months and they never said that? Do you remember that?
Oh, I do recall that.
That's a big no in like PR in the PR world. That's
sure
a
you're aware.
huge no.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you
like
don't
internal.
do that.
It's like you're advertising that you have internal conflicts.
Yeah, you just don't do that.
Yeah, and basically just to touch on that, it really seems like there was just like more and more apparent that there was such a big disconnect between Capcom USA and Capcom Japan. And obviously, I don't have any kind of inside information, so I can't speak like 100% to that. But it was just, one thing that I've learned over the years is perception is reality. If this is the image that you're creating for your company and for your product, and this is how the consumers are going to perceive it, then that's why the game has had so much negative press. Because I will give them credit that they've been making a lot of improvements in the past year, I would say, just in the overall quality of the game's presentation, just the quality of the gameplay itself. There have been improvements, but to the point that Mr. Jibble said earlier, is that it seems like they're always playing catch up. Like they're still a little bit behind, and I don't want to like kick somebody when they're down, but there's still more room for improvement, and it's nice to, it's reassuring to see that they're taking, little baby steps to improve it, but they're still a little bit behind where some of the other, big games are like, and, with regards to this, announcement for the input lag reduction, I'm really curious to see how the final statement is going to be worded. Only because the little bit, the tweet that we got so far just pretty much said like, oh, like, we're aware of, the problems that you've had and we're going to address it. Like, it's very kind of vague. Like,
Yeah,
it almost seems like,
you can't.
it almost seems like they're saying like, oh, there was input delay. Oh, we never knew that. Okay, we're going to take a look at it now, even though this has been known for like,
And
probably
that's almost
since the
why
beta.
you can't talk about it that way. Because then it's confirming, it's verifying what could be, like, what if everybody is wrong? What if we're all wrong and it's all in our heads? We have no good proof, despite all the great tests that have been done by, like, Atwit and, people have been really looking into this kind of thing. What if we're all wrong? And then they're like, all right, you guys were correct. There's this perception problem that we have on social media, and, like, things get blown out of proportion out of nowhere, and you can't even communicate these things accurately in the character limit that we have. So, I don't know. I really want to get to brass tacks. I feel like this discussion can go into so many different directions because we have like the Xkira thing that came out with all the leaks, like where that's gonna lead us, and like game design, how this balance, like where does it fit into the grand scheme of things? Is there really new leadership, or is there somebody else piloting the marketing strategies of Street Fighter V? Are we gonna get a completely new, different game? It's all up in the air at this point.
I mean, the signs point to something has happened internally whereby there are people actually thinking about this game and there's somebody leading it. Because I did a video after the Sagat and G update, which also had the quality of life, user experience update, where at the end of a match, you could go straight back into the training room with those two characters, which saves you an incredible amount of time. Normally you'd have to go in and out of all the stupid menus, and you'd just be like, you know what, I can't be bothered. Like, I would, at least, I'd be like,
Yeah.
I can't be fuck it. It doesn't matter. I'll try and figure it out next time I play them, which is
So
bad on me,
strange.
but it's that user experience is a big deal. Apple built a multi-billion-dollar business on user experience alone, right? So I think ever since the update, lots of positive things have been happening, right? And they've been happening at a reasonably fast rate for Capcom, and they've been many of them have been updates which are a reflection of what the community is saying, rather than just random fucking updates. You know, it's like a lot of the updates in the past were just kind of like, we didn't ask for this. Like, fine, go ahead and do it, but that's not what we asked for. You know, whereas now the update is like, there's a quality of life update. G to me is a very interesting character. I think fun to watch. You know, Sagat is. You know, I thought that update was a strong update. Like, I thought in terms of quality control, I thought it was a strong update, because they actually said, you know, they had said once Marvel failed, and maybe that's what had to happen. Marvel had to fail, maybe.
Or the success of other games as well.
Maybe Bandai Namco had to be as brilliant as they're being in terms of marketing, in terms of the games, etc. Bandai Namco and Arxis, right? So it's almost like, I feel, again, this is a bit of a guess, but it's based on intuition. There must have been a point in the boardroom, right, where Capcom said, do we stay in fighting games, or we just go fuck it and leave it for a few years, or, you know, disappear and put all our money back into Monster Hunter, back into Devil May Cry, back into this, that, and the other. And I felt like a decision was made at some point, which was like, no, you know what? Our pride is at stake here. Finally, right? Our pride is at stake here. Like, Dragon Ball is the #1 game at EVO. These guys, Tekken, like Dragon Ball, they're all outselling us. We are supposed to be the fighting game guys. And I think they made a decision. I think they did. And I think we'll only see positive things now, and positive things which are relevant to us, not positive things which are like, what the fuck, what is that? It's positive things which are like a reaction to what we've been asking for a while now. So I don't know. I'm quite passionate about that side of things, so didn't mean to ramble too much, but
no, I get you. Javits,
no, and Mark, to your point, that also comes because, you know, I know you have a marketing background, so you know how important it is to have that really strong perception of your brand and have that, you know, that high quality of your product. So to that effect, one of the things, you know, comparing it to the way that Bandai Namco handled the input lag situation with Tekken, it just became, even though they didn't fix it instantly when it was addressed, they did address it though. Like they gave reasoning why it was there. They kind of gave, like, you know, put a plan in place, like, all right, we're gonna address it. You know, we're looking into it. Like, we never really got that much from Capcom. The last I heard from Capcom regarding input delay was literally in like 2016, when Hans was still there, and he like replied to like a tweet that I had, and he said like, we are looking into it, or something a lot to that effect.
I remember that.
But nothing, and not that it was his fault, but nothing really came from it beyond that. So it's like, people are like, all right, so it kind of left people who saw that, like, all right, so they do know about it, but they're not officially addressing it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, do they want it to stay this way? Do they not know how to fix it? It was very like a lot of gray areas where people didn't really know what was going on internally, whether it was a priority for them.
Well, that was the big disconnect between the US and Japan, because that was around about the time when they had like the press release from Japan, who were like, yeah, we never agreed to that. And you just felt like, oh my God, these guys are struggling. So, you know, from the US side, I think, you know, bravo on the esports stuff, because they've done a really, really, really amazing job, right? And that's really been the focus, I think, for the US guys. So you got to give them props for that. And in terms of the actual video game production side of things, it feels like Japan have just gone, well, we'll do that, and it'll be ready when it's ready, you know? And meanwhile, in America, you've got, I don't know how many hundreds of, you know, thousands of whatever, hundreds of thousands of people, whatever, wondering what's up with Street Fighter and asking questions. And there's no Japan. It feels like Japan refused to play ball in terms of communication. Now,
Absolutely.
When you look at like Tekken with Harada is just like, you know what? Fuck you. This is how the game is.
Don't ask me for shit.
Like, yeah, don't ask me for shit, right? Now, I feel like Street Fighter wouldn't have had half, you know, many people might disagree with me on this one, but I feel like Street Fighter might not have had half the shit it has if someone had actually stood up and said, this is how the game was designed. this is how it's supposed to play,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, so deal with it.
Hit you with the deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's dope.
Sorry to distract.
I mean, I'm sure it's dope the first time you see it, at least. But it never. No one ever really stood up and said and defended the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, you know, Javits was talking about in terms of brand perception, right? And if the game had come with as a fully immersive, like, fun game,
Mm-hmm.
then I think some of the gameplay, the mechanics of the gameplay, wouldn't get such a rough time either. Like, because I think perception, you know, the
Perception is reality.
Perception is reality. So you have to. So it's like when you load the game and the first loading screen is like, I don't even know how long it is. I just go off and make a coffee or whatever it is. Everyone knows that when you put that disc in and turn it on, right? Everyone knows that you gotta go and do something, right?
You gotta type in Morse code to the nearest telephone pole for some reason. You gotta wait for the update. Like, why is this taking so long?
Right, you just don't know. And it's weird because there are games like, I don't know, Punch Planet, Skullgirls, whatever, right? Who are developed by like 2 people and they load faster, and like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So it just reeks of internal politics, internal miscommunication, all that sort of stuff. But I feel now it's very possible that some of that has been straightened out. It's very possible that it's been made a higher priority. It's very possible that some people have been given more autonomy, which means that they can, you know, which basically means that they can work and get things approved quickly, and perhaps they have a bigger budget. Perhaps they're funneling a bigger budget into it. Perhaps they're giving them reasonable timelines, you know, reasonable resources. I'm shocked. I'll be honest. The reason I'm saying all this stuff is because I'm fucking shocked. Because I thought it was done. I thought, okay, Street Fighter V is done. It's not going to get better. Too late now. They're not going to do any improvements, and they're just going to head on to. They're either going to just quit fighting games, because at the bottom line is, you know, garbage compared to Monster Hunter and whatever else, right?
And even in terms of esports, we're not bottom of the barrel, but we're not Dota or CS or League of Legends.
Right. So I felt like they had a decision to make, which was get out or go in properly. And I think someone made a decision at the top and said, right, let's do this properly. So I'm excited now, because I'm excited not only for Street Fighter V, but I'm excited for whatever is coming next. Whether it be Street Fighter 6, whether it be the game that I want, which I'm calling Street Fighter Origins, or it's Darkstalkers, or whatever the fuck, right?
Who knows?
I'm excited.
Well, we made a lot of great points. There's a few that I want to touch on, but I also want to get back to brass tacks and talk about this input delay situation and what it really means. But before I talk about that, I do want to talk about return of interest, social media, and what happened today with Fantasy Strike. I do want to talk about that a little bit, even though part of me wants to just go around it. But it did happen, and it's an important lesson about that perception in social media and how you come across. Like, you were talking about how there was this miscommunication between USA, Capcom, Capcom Japan, and we're stuck in the middle. Like, why is mom and dad not agreeing? We don't really know how to address this elephant in the room, and neither did they with these kinds of issues with input delay. Like, is it there or is it not? Is it intentional? That is like the number one. Is this the game that's meant to be played? Was it designed around these numbers, or was this the product? There's so many questions that arise just from numbers in an input delay situation. You know, I want to
know. Does anyone have that? Is that actually? Because I don't have the link to when apparently that was said. So apparently, you know, this idea that it was built with that lag in mind.
Oh, I don't know.
Is it just an urban legend that somebody said that from Capcom? Did Capcom ever actually say that?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's like trying to put things together, like you're a conspiracy theorist with newspaper on the wall. Well, they wanted to reset the skill ceiling, so they made it so top players can't react to certain things. And what we're doing here is make reversals really good. So that way, when you combine that with input delay, everybody has that idea. Street Fighter V, any given Sunday, someone can lose, somebody can win, and there's some partial truth to that.
I do think that
if there is no communication on their end, and we don't have a way to, like, even with like with confirmation bias, be like, see, I told you so. Capcom said it's intentional. We don't have a way to really talk about what we're talking about with no, like, real source of information.
Yeah, I mean, their social media up until this point, I mean, it's obviously getting better now, right? But the way that what they did was the way they handled it was they just didn't respond, right? The Americans tried to respond, but they had nothing they could say without Japanese approval, right? And when they did try to say something without Japanese approval, they got burnt for it with a weird ass press release from Japan. So basically, the Americans tried, but the Japanese held the key to that, and they weren't willing to engage. And when they weren't willing to engage, what happened was there were factions, let's call them factions, right, within the FGC, who said, right, we need to hit them in the wallet. Like, we need to stop buying DLC. We need to stop supporting this game. We need to tell them we're going to go play Tekken. We need to tell them we're going to go play Guilty Gear. And by the way, if you play Street Fighter, and this is where it all got fucked up, really fucked up and nasty. It was like, by the way, if you play Street Fighter, you're part of the problem. And people got very angry because they were shouting into a void. And the only way they knew how to get to Capcom was like, we got to hit them in the wallets, right? And if you were supporting Street Fighter, you know, Reddit Street Fighter knows this all too well because they got so much shit from various factions of the internet, right? And I understood where those people were coming from, because they were like, look, no one's fucking listening to us, and we care deeply about Street Fighter. So like, if you're not listening to us and you're not gonna do, you're not gonna respond, then we're not gonna buy your games, and we're not gonna buy your DLC. And we're going to try and spoil it for you. And we're going to try and make sure there's a movement to make sure that no more DLC is bought and no more games are bought and Marvel fails, you know?
Yeah, even though... rip MVCI. That's like the nail in the coffin. Like, do you have anything about that, Javits? I'm sorry, that was a terrible transition, but I wanted to get you in here.
Yeah. No, with regards to MVCI, I think that that's an all different beast, to be honest. That's a different conversation, only because there was another big party involved with Disney. Disney Marvel, and I think it's a little unfair to put that all on just Capcom, because even if they did have an opportunity to fix that game or do more with the game, Disney was calling the shots also. So it's kind of clear to me how quickly that game was just deaded. That definitely was not just Capcom's doing. That was like definitely. Disney was like, you guys are done. No more on this game. There will be nothing more on this game, and that's it. So
Man, it makes me want to go...
I want to say something about the initial release, right? Because people often often say like, oh, Disney, right? So if Disney said this game needs to be out immediately, then okay, I get it. If it's a timeline issue, I get it, right? But I don't think Disney at any point, like, there was this kind of rumor, like, oh, Disney we don't want our Marvel characters to lose fights, or we want our Marvel characters to look more beautiful than the Capcom characters and that shit, right? I don't really buy that. I don't believe it.
Newspaper on the wall conspiracy theories, man. We can't verify any of this.
But here's the other thing. I don't think they said, for instance, the character select screen. Let's make that look like a sort of a mobile game character select screen. You know how in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, it was really beautiful and it was done, to look like a comic book, and it was really dope, and it looked like a lot of passion and effort, and it was being put into it, and it made you feel good when you were there on the character select screen. I don't think Disney went, we should really go backwards on the character select screen if possible. Let's make it as basic as possible. So I don't know about... it is hard to work with a license like Disney. There's no doubt. I agree. But I wonder if the issue is timing and budget, maybe?
It ties in a little bit, I think, to another point that I wanted to make about return of interest into these fighting games. Like, what... You mentioned that Capcom, maybe they have, like, their pride at stake with their fighting game starting to be a little... Like, Tekken's looking like it's the way to go right now. Dragon Ball FighterZ numbers are great. Capcom, it might have hit their pride a little bit, but it's still in that category of like, is this even making money for us? We can allocate our resources in a way that's going to benefit our company. Why should we spend it on the fighting game community? And it feels like we're on that side of it where we're not that important. You know what I mean? You get I get that feeling sometimes.
I think. Sorry, I just think Capcom were resting on their laurels. Like, possibly. I think they were just like, well, we're the number one. We're going to be the number one game. We're Street Fighter the franchise.
Yeah.
And I do think what you said earlier in regards to Street Fighter, I do think they were trying to reset the skill
Odo
ceiling
said
or
it
whatever.
himself with Street Fighter
I
4
think that,
and 5. Further with 5.
I think with 5 that in particular they were trying to break the dominance. Sorry, this is my tinfoil hat theory, by the way. This is my tinfoil hat theory. I just got to preface it with this. But I feel I always thought, like, why did they rush out 5? They could have gone another year with 4, right? And I felt like they wanted to stop the dominance of the Japanese because the real money in esports is in America. And
at the
possibly other
time,
places as well.
Japan didn't even have it. They didn't even have that esports license like they have now. So who knows if they even perceive that to be like, if they have to focus on what the money's at.
But in order to get the average American, like, this is just I don't know for sure, but I'm sure this is probably about right. In order to get the average American E-League watcher, let's say, to be interested in Street Fighter, they need somebody to root for who has a chance, right?
Oh, and that makes me feel gross. I think I know where you're going, but that makes me feel gross.
I just went there. I've gone there. I've said it. Like, basically.
That's a wild.
It's a tinfoil hat. It's a tinfoil hat theory, right?
It's something to think
tinfoil hat
about.
theory, but I feel like they wanted to take away that sort of, all right, let's break the dominance of the current players who've been dominating for 20 years. We need young people to come into this game. And we also, it would be nice if some Americans started dominating as well, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know that that's true or not or whatever, because I feel like, if you carried on with 4, there was some really strong Americans coming through. I felt like Knuckle was really coming through strong at the end of 4, right?
I just don't know.
And you just don't know. But I felt like they wanted to break away from those fundamentals that had been running through a lot of the games for 20 plus years,
and if I
have something really quick. My take on it is Occam's razor. It's probably not that complicated. It was probably really simple, and then it became haphazard, and it really wasn't that thought out. But I know.
That's why I call it my tinfoil hat theory, because I'm just like, nah, it's like, that's way too thought out. But I'm just confused about why they rushed. Maybe it was PlayStation. We'll never know. We'll never know. One day somebody will reveal all, perhaps.
Who knows? We'll never know. It's a cute theory. I'm sorry I cut you off, Javits. What was that?
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say, even if there is some truth to that theory, I feel like they succeeded in that in the sense that they did make the game easier. We do see a lot of new faces winning. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you're playing an easier game or a more complicated game, the better players, the ones who are grinding out the most, who are, just overall playing the game the most and putting in that work. So it's not magically going to make some players that just win or be amazing. These players that do win, they're still great players. It's just, everything got switched around a little bit. And it's kind of more of a situation where it's still, this may not make sense, but it's still hard to win at a high level, but it's just easier to lose. Like, you can, the nature of the game, it's more volatile. So you can still be Daigo and do Daigo things, or Sako clearly is doing amazing things with Manat, but the game lends itself to, if you get put in these situations, you can lose it all very quickly. So that's that. I feel like they succeeded if that's what they wanted to do, just to kind of shake up the results. But in terms of like the overall play of the game, even if the game was designed to play like that, it should at least be a little bit more responsive. And I think that's what they're addressing with the input delay fix. That, all right, the game can have these crazy B trigger comebacks, whatever, but if something like input lag is just like an extra factor that it's not even on the players, that's out of your control. You can't control variable lag. That's just really,
that had to be like, that's. Sorry, you couldn't off.
It's not something that you can truly control. So the fact that they're at least addressing that you're the one a little bit more in the driver's seat, affecting the outcome. I think that's a really good fix. So I want to commend them on that, even though it's late, 2 years later, or whatever. It is a step in the right direction. Just because it's, as a player, you'll feel more okay. Like, all right, I did get robbed, but I could have done this. I could have reacted a little bit better. But when you feel like you can't even control the game properly, it's just not a good feeling. So I think a change like this is gonna make it feel a little bit better.
I agree with you, man. I feel bad for all these historically great players that are really putting their hearts into it. And it's like, man, I think about Shine specifically. I think Shine is one of the best players in America. But even him, I'm like, good luck out there, man. I know you just kind of going out there and pulling the slot machine and hoping it returns to you. Like, it's not to say that Street Fighter V is not skillful. I don't even want to talk about that part of it.
Well, can I ask you guys about, I mean, the technical side of,
sure,
because like the technical side is the bit I'm gonna shut up about.
Yeah,
and
I just want to say that we have 30 minutes left for it to be an hour. I'm willing to go up to an hour and a half, but I do want to get some of these other points that we did discuss on the document.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you guys at some point talk about the implications, the technical side of it, like what you think are going to be the big implications, because I can't remember what happened when we went from 8 to 6. Remember, from 8 frames to 6 frames? And I can't actually remember if it made a huge difference, or if things changed, or if certain players who are better at reactions did better, or if certain characters did better, or is it really going to be, obviously this is a change that everybody wants. They want the feel of the game to feel better, to feel more responsive. I guess my question is, like, what's going to be the biggest impact on the game, and will it be felt? Will it change the game?
I'll keep mine brief. Throws are the first thing that comes to mind. You're already so currently you're susceptible to getting shimmied. So you think somebody is close enough, you try to throw them on reaction to them walking forward to you, and then by that time they're already out of range for the throw, and then they punish you for whiffing your throw. Now you can be a little more certain how close they are. You can judge that narrow space just a little bit better even if they reduce it by 1 or 2 frames. And that was the major effect that I recall people saying, I feel like I can tech throws easier than before. That's at least one of the side effects of frame. But there's a whole lot of things more to point out with that. Javits?
Yeah, and one of the things that's gonna certainly change also is just your ability to check movement that is really fast. And for example, right now, if somebody dashes up and presses the button, by the time that you react and press your button, they already committed to their dash into whatever attack, whether it was dash, grab, or whatever. And even though you might have reacted, the input delay might have made your button a little bit too late. So the fact that they're looking to reduce the input delay might make some of those interactions a little bit more, I guess, the intended result of what was supposed to happen, it will be more likely to happen. It's not to say that, dash up cross counter is not gonna all of a sudden gonna go away. Things like that will still be there, just because that's fighting game. There's conditioning. Everybody has different reaction times. It just won't be as prevalent. I don't think. I think there will be more situations where if you're looking for something, you will have a higher success rate of being able to check it. So just the percentages are gonna swing a little bit. And so that's more of a movement thing and neutral. But another thing that's certainly going to change, in my opinion, is certain normals right now in the game. They have different cancel windows. So certain normals were designed to have longer cancel windows so that you can hit confirm them. Like Ken's low forward, Zeku's standing heavy punch has a longer cancel window until you can hit. So it lets you do the target combo, hit confirm. Little things like that are gonna work a little bit more as intended, because they were already designed to have longer cancel windows precisely for that reason, but they weren't as effective because the input delay didn't allow you to really hit confirm as well as you might be able to now after the patch. So just and to touch on Jibbo's point, just little instances where like you might be moving in and out, and being able to determine like little minute spacings, like did he really walk up all the way to get in throw range, or did he walk away already? Like these little things do, when you're I guess when your adrenaline is up and you have these heightened senses, you're more sensitive to these little minute spacings. So I think you're certainly going to see, at least from certain players, some more impressive things of like better defense or just some cleaner hit confirms and things like that. But the game still is, none of the systems are changing, so you're still going to see a lot of the crazy stuff that's still currently there, but it's just some of the interactions are going to be a little bit different now. I think.
Do you think? Sorry, sorry, Jibbo.
Go ahead. I know you're used to being
you,
on the piling part. I don't mind it. It's all good.
I just want to ask you guys because like I want to delve into your minds, right? Do you think? I saw Adele. I think it was Adele, and I apologize if it wasn't Adele, but Big Bird Adele had tweeted, I think, that he was a little bit concerned about the effect before Capcom Cup, right? Do you think? Let's say it was 2 frames, right?
Yep.
2 frames difference.
Just like
right?
Tekken. Tekken reduced their input delay by 2 frames about.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of guessing 2 frames because of the Unreal Engine fix, right? And who knows if maybe there was some extra fix in there for Tekken. I don't know. But if it's 2 frames, let's say it goes from 6.2 to 4.2, right? Is that gonna dramatically change the game so much that it's gonna have a detrimental effect on the players as they move to Capcom Cup?
That's a tough one. It's going to have an effect. It's going to have an effect. But there's many different things that are involved with a reaction. That's the whole point of fighting games. You see something, you respond to it, you mix in the psychology, and you put some reasoning skills into it. That's the whole fighting game. And everything is influenced by how fast you can hit that button. I was testing something today about, can I punish a whiff throw with a 9-frame normal? I could do it pretty well on PC. I could do it sometimes on PS4. I did it even better if I held my finger closer to the button, but that's not how I play. So, like, every number matters. Like, you hear people all the time, what does 1 frame matter? It's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. And then it affects online play, too. If it lags internally and then you lag in somebody else and they play on Wi-Fi and you got a game that encourages mashing, I'm about to go on a rant, so I'm going to stop. Javits.
Yeah, I think it'll certainly have a difference. But just in different areas where some people think it's gonna, suddenly they're gonna become amazing players. Like, no, that's not gonna happen overnight. The great players are still gonna be the great players that they are today, and great players adapt and change their strategies. If they have something that they start to see is just not working as effectively anymore, then they'll do something else. It's not gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna be the end of Ken. It's not gonna be the end of Laura with their command dashes and runs. They'll find different ways to condition you to look for other things, and then just like everything else.
The beauty of it is that you'll feel like they deserved it when they do something that was unsafe and it works. Then you're like, he must have been in his head rather than the game doing the deception part for you. That's what bothers so many people. It's like you don't feel responsible for the results on the screen. It's like, well, I guess I guessed wrong. You get put into that situation in ways that if you can at least react and be responsible for the offense and defense, you can at least feel better about taking credit for the things that maybe you don't even understand them. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's exactly right. I think just, the fact that, is going to have a more real representation of what people are controlling and what they're reacting to is not so, it's not always, a little bit less guessy. You're going to see some really more like impressive things. Like some of the whiff punishes that you're going to see are going to look a little bit like, wow, that was sharp. Maybe not to everybody will be aware of it, but it's you're definitely going to see some cleaner play, I think. And it's just going to feel better, man. I'm happy about this change. They're still down the line. They might need to change some moves, make some moves faster, or make some moves slower. Who knows?
Yeah, but then it could be real Street Fighter.
Yeah, but
that's not coming from me. I'm memeing about that, but that really is the direction to make the game have good input delay, make normals have longer range, less startup, maybe more recovery, so they're more punishable if they whiff, and then you'll start seeing less crush counter normals. Just, dude, I played against a birdie online 30-40 minutes ago. He hit heavy kick 6 times in a row, and I was joking. I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hit heavy kick right about now, and I crush counter him, but I'm not reacting. I'm like, he did it 6 times in a row. It's so silly.
Yeah. So I think those situations, you're gonna see some more like deliberate ways to deal with abusive tactics, and that's a good thing. You know, if somebody
Yeah.
is abusing a certain attack because it's hard to deal with it because of the lag, and you have a few more opportunities to punish them now, you're gonna see some more like wow, that was a great punish right there. Like this guy gonna be
Yeah.
is when somebody's reacting, especially if they're doing it consistently, and somebody like Punk, who even in the current environment, we're punishing like crazy. It's only gonna
Yeah.
be better. So
Yeah, I was going to bring up Punk actually, and I think one of my questions had been, did you think that there are certain players with crazy reactions who are going to, this is going to benefit,
Yeah.
over other players? I know isn't Xiao Hai supposed to be the crazy reaction guy as well?
I
absolutely,
think it's a misperception, kind of how well somebody can react to a single stimulus. I've tested multiple people from like my local area and how well they can react to something, and they could do it just as well as me. My reactions are pretty good, and it's all the results were similar. Now it's not just one thing reacting; it's multiple things. And what I'm curious about is when you decrease the input delay, how does that affect your relationship between reacting to one thing and multiple things? That's
Yeah.
including identifying. That is what Xiaohai is good at. Not necessarily, I guess it's my opinion, not necessarily reacting to one thing, but identifying what's happening. Because I think a lot of people underestimate how well they can react to just a single stimulus. Like you, if punished in Third Strike, just like a pro would do. Like you saw a crouching heavy kick whiff in front of you online on PS4, and then you whiff punished it.
Yeah, that may have been a bit of luck, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But yeah, it's not just a player thing, but also the characters that they play, and those two elements combined. Um, so you might have a player like Fudo. You might think Armika will be nerfed by this because maybe you can react to her jump arc better with the input delay being reduced. You can identify what's happening. So you might think, well, maybe Fudo won't be as good. But Fudo is a reactionary player. He is big time, really good at identifying what's happening. So Armika has what? I think 5-frame EX Flying Peach is the move and it has really good range. You can use that as a whiff punishing tool. So maybe Fudo, you see him using that more as a punishment for whiff normals. You might see that now. So it's not a closed black and white, closed and shut case. One person is gonna be better. This character is gonna be better or worse. It is gonna change a whole. I mean, if they change it by a lot, if it's just like half a frame, it might not matter. If it's that it's not going to variably lag anymore, that's going to matter. If it doesn't variably lag anymore and they reduce it by 2 frames, a lot's going to change.
Well, do you know what causes the variable lag?
Nope.
Okay. I was just wondering because I thought I saw a tweet from you once which said like it was something to do with PS4 or something. So I don't know what causes the variable lag.
Some flux capacitor defibrillator and the way it communicates with the antifreeze WD-40. I'm sure that's what it is. Also the color purple.
The but they said like in the tweet, it was really weirdly worded. I felt the first time I read it, I was a bit like I didn't totally understand it because it just took me a little while because they were like the speed of inputs, which is kind of people don't really say that, like within the FGC at least.
Mm-hmm.
But it led me to believe that it didn't mean that they were going to deal with the variability.
Which is PS4 only.
Is PS4 only? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Oh.
PC.
Hey man,
is it gonna change?
If the variable lag stays and they reduce it by 2 frames, I'll take it, man.
Nah, man, they're gonna fix it. They're gonna make PC have variable input lag. They're gonna make them both equal.
Oh man.
I've not yet heard anyone use the excuse variable. Like I've not yet heard anyone go, "Did you see that? Did you see how that varied?" That variant.
You can't really. I don't know if you can detect it like that because there's human error too. That's human error. People don't know what they're doing. People have so much confidence on Twitter about subjects they have no idea what they're talking about.
But no one's used that excuse yet. But once if the lag gets fixed, I say fixed, if it gets improved to like 4.2 or whatever, right? Where it's like, okay, well, it's not laggy now. Then will people move on to like, did you see that variance? Did you see the variance there? That variance was insane, dude.
Man. It's so crazy that we have this type of discussion. I mean, it's so interesting to me that we're in this environment, and I don't know.
Yeah, but just on a more positive note, I'm looking forward to mess around with the patch and probably exploring some different characters that that probably might be a little bit better. They're not gonna get any new tools, but some of the characters that were just on the cusp of like, doing some good damage, like Zeku right now. Angry Bird been doing some great things with him, and any fix like that, it's only gonna make him better. So I feel like that could happen for a couple of other characters.
It's also not out of the realms of possibility that they may make some tweaks, to the frame data and stuff like that. Like, all they've said is there's an update on the 23rd, and they've said we're going to fix the input delay. But also, it's like, okay, there's an update, so is there other stuff happening on the 23rd?
You brought up something earlier about user interface experience, how you can like easily select the training mode to pick the character you're just fighting against.
Yeah.
And it how do I say this? It's as if they don't play their own product. That sounds like a mean way of saying it, but I want to tie this into watching the developer matches that are on CFN, watching them play the game. I don't expect them to be a high-level, pro-level level, but how are they evaluating their experience based off of how they experience the game, or do they project their game balance on how somebody else? I'm trying to gauge how they understand fighting games, you know what I mean? Or how do they understand that user experience, And then they have to like separate what is Twitter complaints to like, oh, that guy knows what he's talking about. Maybe I should listen to what he's saying,
I think they use data and the internal data of the game. So they look at win rates, and I imagine they can break down the data much more than we can, in regards to like which characters are used. I don't know, like
I see what you're saying.
What are the win rates? What are the matchup win rates? What are the
such an abstract thing, man? Because I've been thinking about fighting game balance myself. Like, what makes a fighting game fun? Why was Evo Moment 37 so special? Why was Threading the Needle that like in that situation? That is like an unforgettable moment in esports history. And why does it feel like to me that we can't reproduce that with Street Fighter V? Why? What needs to be there?
The fun factor is a huge deal, and I felt that when I recently went to California, went to Oryx Arcade, sat down, played some Third Strike, right, on a cab. And, I was never big into Third Strike or anything like that, but I was just like, all right, let me give this a go. I kind of roughly know I think I know roughly this is a footsies-based game, and, this kind of seems like fun. Let me see what I can do. And it just felt really nice. Like, really nice. Like, really reactive, really nice. Like, the ability to whiff punish is, on a completely different level, and that's a huge aspect of that game. And then obviously there are various levels which I didn't reach in one sitting.
Yeah. I feel like you saw like all the math equations rolling by when I was explaining it to you on the Twitch stream.
I mean, there's definitely unbelievable depth to that game, but it made me wonder, and I didn't have the answer either. It made me wonder, like, why is this so much fun? Right?
Especially when you don't know. It's like knowing something is okay, but maybe it's the inclination to include everybody into the competitive environment so that they can draw the numbers for the Capcom Pro Tour. Maybe they were wrong. I think that attempt is a good attempt to try to bring more people into the scene. But there's something about having a really complicated fighting game, not knowing anything, and playing somebody and having a good time. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely don't know the answer. But I think there must be people out there who understand what are these lots of. I'm sure it's lots of small elements that you all throw together, right? Including the core gameplay, but there's lots of things that are just make you feel good and make it feel fun. And I think that comes together when you have a team that's incredibly focused and has a vision.
Maybe they don't. Maybe a team that doesn't have politics pulling them different directions. Look, the reason why I say it is because UNIST is fucking dope. UNIST is so good. But do they have some other thing telling them to do this? Do they have pressure to make a successful esports game? They're probably just some dudes that are like making a game they love, and then here you go, here's an arcade.
Although those guys are definitely the game's up into this point. I mean, we'll see where they go in the future, Arxis and Bandai Namco. But
they suck they suck on the other side. I've been hearing like nightmare stories about the Arc Rebel Pro Tour. I don't know.
Right,
I'm speaking out of school, but
regardless, their focus has always been on we're gonna make a great game. We're gonna make a great, fun game, right? And that's where I think it's obvious, right? That when Street Fighter V came out, it was just bare bones for esports, right? And that's where I think potentially the mistake was made was, yo, we need something for esports. Let's go.
You say, yo, esports?
Yo, esports.
Javits, you got something to say?
I have a question to you, Jibbo, since you've been playing UNIST, and you know, one of it reminds me a lot of one of the interviews that Mark did with Alioun. I forgot what tournament it was. I want to say it was
Combo Breaker, I think.
It was.
Yeah, and he spoke a lot about that game just because of how deep the mechanics are in that game, as particularly that system. I don't know what it's called, but it involves like a meter that depending
grid?
on how much.
I learned that's what it's called, grind grid.
Yeah, so the grind grid, it depending on what you do in the match, it shifts in your favor or back to the other player, and that's just a simple mechanic, but it adds to the depth and in turn the fun of that game. And my question for you, Jibbo, is there's a leak by Xkira that supposedly they're gonna add all these new systems to Street Fighter V, like some kind of like V-break, custom combo, all types of things.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that looking at where the game currently is, not the worst game out there, but also you have your issues with the current issues with the game, right? Now, do you think it's too little, too late in the life cycle of Street Fighter V, or does this game still have a chance to be like, wow, this is such a big change that it's almost like, you know how like Second Impact and Third Strike are completely different games, and Third Strike was kind of like the one that became, I guess, internationally accepted as
years later.
Many years later, but it became the standard almost for the 3 series as like the competitive standard. Like, you know, Second Impact, not a bad game by any means, but Third Strike is the one that you're going to see in tournaments that is more like relevant, I guess you could say. Now, with Street Fighter V, if they make so many changes that it's like, oh my god, this game actually is pretty deep or pretty cool now, do you think they can still kind of salvage a player like you who wants more of that depth of what you're seeing right now in UNIST? What are your thoughts on that?
The first thing that comes to mind is that when UNIST itself first came out, and this is according to a friend of mine who has been there playing it since the beginning, he said it was trash. It was the most broken game, infinite, stupid damage, characters were off the wall, everybody had an infinite. He was telling me these things. And then however many years later, they had this product that they have now, and it's fantastic. At least as far as from my experiences so far. I've been playing it for about 2 to 3 weeks, and it's been, oh man, it's been good. It's just bringing me back. 2.5 frames of delay. But it sounds like with Street Fighter V, maybe it'll be unrecognizable. Maybe it'll be a good game at that point too. I just don't think they got the formula correct. I think it was a good attempt to make it easy to play, hard to master, but I don't think they quite got to the place they wanted to. It's like easy to play, you can master it. But, well, I don't know. Like, part of me feels like if history will repeat itself, if they add too many things to the game, it's not going to be done successfully. It's going to be like resetting it. It's going to be a totally different game. We're going to have different problems. either way, I'm happy because I'm in business. Like that's what I do. That's what I've been doing with Street Fighter V, and it's what allowed me to keep doing this kind of content. So in that way,
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy about this. I welcome the change, but I want it to be something with longevity too. I don't want it just to be like when G Sagat came out. You know, my YouTube channel, Twitch channel, everyone's coming in. It's like, oh, this guy is pretty good at dissecting things. And then I get kind of bored. I don't even care about playing Cody, or I don't care about replaying G again. Although I thought they did a fantastic job. I played Yang for so many years. I played Hugo for so many years in Third Strike. I still play them. I still have a great time. But I'm happy about new things. I invite new mechanics. I would like to see those things be more like I just want more things that are interesting to keep me like I want to show up for work in the morning and find out new things. But it's like at this point with Street Fighter V, I feel like I'm like squeezing it out as much as possible, and that's another reason why I've been playing UNIST. It's another like the only reason I started playing that is because somebody in my Twitch channel, I met them, they happened to be local, and he was like, "You'd love this game." He gave me a physical copy. Like, all right, sure, I can pay for free. I'll take some time. And then now I've been organizing these events with my real life friends. I haven't seen them in so long. Like we haven't played fighting games, and I can't remember when. It's so cool to like, and I got the idea from BornFree to like have player cams while we're playing, and it's been an amazing experience. It brings me back to like that competitor feel. Like I want to beat this guy, and even though it's just online, but that's how I want to feel with Street Fighter. I want to feel like that with Street Fighter.
Now, that's kind of like where my question is going though. Do you think that feeling can happen with Street Fighter 5, or do you think it's too late for 5? Do you think that's going to be something
for me? No, it's not too late. It's not too late. I'll give it a shot, but as always, I'll be honest with the end product. This isn't to say that I've taken a back seat as far as that's concerned. I'm not a competitor. I don't care. I don't even go to my locals like I should be. Because I just don't, it's like I just show up just to hang out and network. My role is to teach, develop, entertain, try to be funny, and then that's my Street Fighter 5. But as far as like I'm gonna be the best, like as far as like I was with that with Cross Tekken, but it's just, that's not me right now with Street Fighter 5. And if you want to like talk personally, I feel like I'm one of the best players. I could be one of the best players in the world, but not if my heart's not in it, and my heart's not in it. So my heart is with enhancing that experience for other people. If they enjoy the game, I want to help them. You know, I want to get them up want to push them up the fence. You know, here.
Yeah. Interesting. That's cool, man. And but yeah, just to kind of wrap things up, I'm happy for these changes. Really looking forward to what else is coming down the line. Like Mark said, you know, it seems like somebody is at the helm at Capcom saying, "Yo, let's make some improvements," and this is probably just the start of it. Well, actually, no, it started, I would say, with like the G and Sagat thing, like releasing them together, and there's just been like, you know, there's been some good announcements since then. So it's everything's coming up Millhouse.
I don't even know what that means, but it sounded cool.
Yeah, but
I think. Oh, there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up about the Fantasy Strike tweets that happened earlier today. It's not really that big of a deal, but it is. It's so important, the presence you have on social media, and like just the words you put out there. And I support Fantasy Strike. I think it's a good game, and I want to play more of it. And that's not me like shilling or whatever. I think it's interesting. But the method, the way they kind of took shots at basically Street Fighter V, but the way it's presented, it's just too faulty. And it makes everyone look silly. I didn't think that was the best thing to do.
I didn't see it. I didn't. So are you able to summarize?
See that. I did see that. So basically, Fantasy Strike made a tweet, kind of like taking a little bit of a shot at Street Fighter V, like, hey, our game, you know, play our game, and it registers 1 frame after you press your button or something like that. And Jibbo replied to that and made a good point. Like, how do we know you're not showing it? You're not really showing any data. Like, how do we know that that the button was pressed at a certain point for it to appear on the screen? So it's kind of just misleading, and it was a little bit distasteful from the Fantasy Strike that whoever decided to tweet that. I don't know if they did it as a joke or what they're trying to do, but it was very, for those who are in the know, it just, they weren't really proving anything with that tweet, and it just looked like they just were jumping on an opportunity to promote their game by crapping on another one, and they did it in a very poor way, and it kind of backfired on
Yeah.
them. Kind of backfired on them because then Wid got involved, and like it's
It's
just
my
not
fault.
a good route to go.
It's my fault.
Yeah,
I was just asking questions, man. I don't know. Maybe they knew something I didn't. I'm not trying to start things. That's not my MO at all. I'm just curious about how these processes. I don't even know what they mean by the frame advance mode. I'm gonna be completely honest. I love saying when I don't know something. It's so important to say that because I think some people think that I know things, but I know I know that I know nothing. That's like some philosopher said that or something. I don't know who that philosopher was, but it's so important to be like, what does this mean? You know?
Yeah, Jibbo Pithecus said that actually.
Don't make me laugh. Yeah, because this is the real issue here. Is that what do the game devs know? Who is that a social media expert saying that? Because if it's the game dev and they're saying something that doesn't match up with reality, I guess, then it's like, see, I knew those fighting game devs didn't know what they were talking about. And I hate for it to be that kind of dynamic, conversation between people. That's what I'm really trying. Like, the questions I'm asking are just an attempt to understand where people are coming from. I don't mean to incite any, like, flame wars or anything like that.
Yeah, it was pretty funny though. It was definitely like they tried to pull a quick one and it got shot down pretty quick.
It's like when you play a match online, you don't know what that person's going through on the other end. He might have some kids jumping on his lap. His wife is about to hit him with a frying pan. You don't know these things. You don't know how somebody feels. Like let's just say Wid is having a bad day, and then he sees us like, come on, these motherfuckers. Can't believe. You don't know how somebody's gonna respond to it on any given day. So
yeah,
it's hard to like separate that it's an actual person on the other side.
Yep.
So we got a few questions in the chat. Unless there's anything else that y'all want to talk about, we can start doing questions and wrap this up. It's been an hour.
Did you want to talk about? I remember there was two other things. There was dojos, and the other thing was esports, because the Echo Fox stuff.
Ah, yeah. I wanted to relate Return of Interest, like how the Capcom can look at Street Fighter V and be like, this ain't it's got to be Resident Evil and it's got to be Monster Hunter. But then like maybe they took shots, whatever. So maybe organizations can look at their fighting game department as well. I'm careful with my words here. And then they can look at their players and like, that's not where the money's at. We're investing into this as a passion project from the goodness of our esports hearts. That's how I feel about fighting games. I mean, this conversation can go into a totally different area about sponsorships in fighting games, what's really worth it. And then somebody brought up in the chat about UNIST, like why don't pro players play that? And I'm like, because there's no money in it. There's no money in it. And wait 1 second. Why would you invest your lifeblood into practicing a game that's not going to pay you? You can't. It has to be like that salaryman who's going off of work and playing it a little bit. You can't be a pro player in UNIST like you can in Street Fighter or kind of Tekken. Basically, Street Fighter
I was kind of surprised. Well, I wasn't surprised, but like it was a shame it wasn't part of the Arc Revo tour. Because when I saw the lineup for Arc Revo, it made sense. Those games make sense. But it was a shame. UNIST was the one thing which dropped off, because like it could have been in the Arc Revo tour, and it could have been something that potentially people could invest more time in. You know?
Yeah, it's dope. It's like it's so cool to me. It's so cool because I get to play with my friends from back in the day. There's no like esports pressure on the sidelines. I don't know how to play the game. Yesterday, I beat somebody who was super good. He won a major in it, and I mean it's just one match. But I'm like, I haven't had this sort of pop-off reaction in so long because I played him in the rotation. He was beating everybody. I was like, what's the problem? I beat him, and I ran off. It felt like I was at the arcades. Somebody who's running this happened to me in Guilty Gear XR. That was in Japan. This gentleman had like a 14-game win streak, and I'm still learning Guilty Gear, and I beat him, and I saw him leave the arcade. I'm like, ooh, that was me. I did that. All right. I'm sorry. I'm
Good
making this
times.
about
Good time.
making this about me. But I want that feeling for Street Fighter V. And to sum it all up, I would love to have that for every fighting game, including especially Street Fighter V. And if any of you gentlemen have anything else you would like to add?
Oh, one of the things just regarding Street Fighter V that we kind of forgot to touch on, and it might be related to the reason why they're doing this change, is the fact that the real arcade version is coming, and they probably let's say that the input lag is intentional or not, but they figured out a way to fix it now, and they're gonna do that for the arcade. They want to probably have the console experience matching how it's going to be in the arcade, because if they want to raise
Arcade
the
Master
quality,
Race.
if they want to raise the quality of their product and get more people excited about the game again, and they're putting it out on another platform, which is going to have very strong players from one of the arguably the strongest region. The game's gonna change for sure, man. New patch, less input lag, probably some balance changes. They might adjust some of these moves based on the input lag. I think there's a lot in store. There's still a lot of, a good amount of juice left with Street Fighter V. And it just depends on how many issues they decide to address, and if they, spice it up with some new mechanics.
I have a question which I think is kind of interesting, but that's just me. Do you think that they are? I mean, they might be. They're killing two birds with one stone, right? But do you think they are already? A lot of this stuff they're implementing is testing for whatever is the next big fighting game. Because I feel like dojos and because Dojo is really interesting to me, right? Dojos is about self-expression. Dojos is definitely about DLC, right? Dojos is giving you something to grind for. Manat with her, doing the whole loot box thing, where if it kind of feels good when you do it. And I had a stream the other night where I did a whole stream where we were just trying to get the fucking tanukis with the ball bags, right? So I could have the dojo with a lot of big fucking ball bags, right? And that was a great stream. I really enjoyed it because it was like a CS:GO stream where you're hitting the loot boxes and you got something to do and you're having fun or whatever, and with and then you've got them now reducing lag, and then who knows, everyone's going like this. Will they do something with the netcode? Maybe, right? Maybe they'll have a look at the netcode. Will they
input delay is doing something about the netcode. Reducing input delay is doing something about the netcode.
What do you mean?
If the game lags internally for 10 frames, you're gonna add to it. You can introduce more lag if you go online. So if you reduce,
oh no, I understand that, but I mean literally the matchmaking netcode system. In as I'm not talking about the knock-on effect. Because a lot of people are wondering will they address whether it's matchmaking or actual netcode itself. I've never been able to figure that out, right? Because I've always thought maybe it's the matchmaking, maybe that's the issue. I don't know. Maybe it's people playing on Wi-Fi. Maybe it's whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the point is there's a lot of changes happening, and I can't figure out in the life cycle of Street Fighter V. I can't figure out why it's happening, because there's a part of me which is okay, they're doing it because they've decided they're slipping in esports and they're slipping in just general fighting games, and and Bandai Namco are coming and sort of really competing with them, if not trying to take the title as the #1 game or whatever, whether it be Tekken or whether it be Dragon Ball. But there's another part of me which is maybe all of this is experimentation for whatever's next, because those changes you were talking about, Javits, apparently X-Kira found. Yep. I wouldn't be surprised if they went Omega mode, right? And it was, it was a repeat of Street Fighter 4. It was let's practice some stuff.
So it's not tournament legal. Is that what you're saying? They wouldn't be tournament legal changes?
I don't know the answer. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just saying, is all this stuff at this late stage, because it's so late in the life cycle of the game.
I agree.
I think. Is all this stuff like primarily for Street Fighter 5, or is all this stuff sort of like, okay, yeah, it's going to improve Street Fighter 5, but this is also going to be really useful for this thing that we're working on that you guys don't know about right now?
Yeah, I think any kind of stuff that gets introduced, at year 2 and year 3 is certainly, they're using this as a benchmark to see how it may function in a future project. If it flops, then they won't put it. But if it's something that is like, oh, this is pretty interesting, um, I think, to answer your question, yes, it certainly is, data gathering for whatever the next project is. I don't know if there's another project being worked on right now, but they're definitely gonna, use whatever they learn, what they play around with and experiment. They're gonna use that, and that's Omega Mode was kind of a unique case because they had never done something specifically like that before, and it was so late in the Street Fighter 4's life cycle that they did that. That's why they didn't make that tournament legal, and they didn't even really finish like a lot of those moves. Didn't really like the animations were a little wonky and all that, and but the concepts were a lot of things that actually were ended up being what the groundwork for Street Fighter Five. Like a lot of people, some people may not know this, but the input buffer system was used in Omega Mode. The 3-frame links and all that was actually from Omega Mode. A lot of the moves that are now like V trigger specific moves, those were in Omega Mode. A lot of the giving a lot more characters target combos. Like for example, Ryu. If you pick Ryu in Omega Mode, he has all the target combos that he ended up having in Street Fighter 5, like the standing medium punch into heavy punch to heavy kick. That's in Omega Mode. Standing heavy punch into heavy kick. That was in Third Strike also, but it was also in Omega Mode. Like, he has like a special kind of parry, which ended up being his V trigger too. They certainly do, test things years in advance, and apply it in some way or another in the future. So yeah, if they really do mess around with some stuff with with that Xkira leaks, is something that I think will definitely be used for Street Fighter 6 or whatever the next major fighting game is.
I think the Dojo mode with the DLC and the customization and all that sort of stuff feels like experimentation for whatever's coming next. I had this conversation with Velociraptor, and it just feels like, because, a lot of games like Fortnite and stuff like that have become very sort of, the business model has switched to this, DLC. And I actually think Dojo is a really good idea. Like anything that allows you to express yourself, like I said, I've got this, I'm being a total troll, and I've got like the Tanuki statues with massive nutsacks.
Yeah,
right?
but you
like
have a medium to do that now.
That's my dojo, right? So I'm just like, oh, this is hilarious. Look at me do this. And, it's not that hilarious, but it is what it is. It's just me messing around. Like, any opportunity you have to customize your characters, like in Tekken, I think you can customize characters much more in regards to their costumes and stuff, right?
Yep.
In Fortnite, I don't play Fortnite, I don't watch Fortnite, but I know that there's fucking dances and shit, right? I'm sure that's part of the DLC. I play Call of Duty. I know that when the loot box comes down, it's amazing. You know what's rare, you know what's not rare, and most of it I usually earn in the game. But I know that there are people out there who are just like, fuck it, I don't have the time for this. I'm just going to pay for it, right? And so and they call them whales, right? They call them the guys who spend ludicrous amounts of money on DLC, right? So as a business model, it works for certain games. And I do wonder if the Dojo is, I think in this next update, there might be more Dojo updates, particularly in regards to how the community aspect functions, I think, but we'll see. But definitely, I think the Dojo feels like the DLC and feels like experimentation. Like, can we make DLC really work in a business sense? Because right now it's not really business sense. It's like you spend your fight money, right? You can't.
Yeah,
I don't think you can spend
but
real
fight
money.
money can translate into real money because characters you can buy with fight money, but you can also buy them with real money. So if you spend fight money on something else, it has that, and it's also a way for like people who don't have 100,000 fight money to have something to spend it on. So they have something that's also customizable.
I think people will take pride in their dojos. I think people will, I love having my own stage. Like, this is my stage. And at the moment, it's only 5 things that I can change. But in the future, who the hell knows what you can change? Like, there'd probably be a billion things you can change in the background, right? You could put characters in there, like animated characters. Maybe I could have Dan in the background, like waving or whatever the hell characters do. They, the weird stuff that they do. So I just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of this is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I think it's definitely sort of like, it's late for Street Fighter 5. So there's definitely a part of me which feels like this is definitely laying the groundwork for something else.
Testing grounds.
And potentially, could they go, and this is the big thing that Velociraptor was talking about to me, was could they go with the sort of I guess the Fortnite model, not the Fortnite model, the what's the game on the Xbox? Sorry, I've forgotten the one fighting game on Xbox.
Killer
Instinct.
Killer Instinct, right? So the Killer Instinct model was like free to download, right? Free to play, and then sort of DLC based. And I guess the question is, will that bring in more people? If Street Fighter 6, let's say, or whatever the next game is, comes in free to play, and then all the DLC is like you can sort of earn it in game, but you'll get there faster if you pay for it, kind of thing. I feel like Dojos is a little bit of experimentation in that regard, to say to the bosses, hey, we can make this work in fighting games, so let's go do it and be the next freaking Fortnite. Of fighting game.
I just wish that there was more content that helped people learn how to play the game. That's what I do. That's what I do. But
oh yeah. I mean, they should be teaming up. I think they should team up with influencers like you, like, let's say, Vespa, like people who have a good understanding of how to train people, how to break the game down from the beginner level, try to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's never played a fighting game before. And they should work with you guys to develop stuff that is accessible in the game.
I agree with you, but I also think about qualifications. There's some people out there that are criminals, felons, that maybe I have a criminal record. You can't work with me. I don't, by the way. But it's hard to find people that you can trust who has the resume. I don't even have a college degree. I have military experience, and I've studied philosophy and music a little bit in college. But I spend a lot of time with games. I have a creative mind. I love to solve problems, and I communicate that with the audience that I have, and it's my shtick. But am I qualified for that position? That's what I think about.
Well, I'm not saying that you have to be the face, right? Like, but they could choose for somebody else, some paid actor, to be the face of it.
Capcom Connect has been including clips from me and Javits. They haven't been explaining it well, but the attempt is there, using our Twitter videos. So I mean, this could branch off into other like maybe they get their feet wet. I'm like, all right, it's not so bad. We're getting some numbers from it. Maybe we can rope in Javits on a video call. Maybe we can talk to AutoMattock about this certain setup.
Well, in Japan, they recently let Hi Fight take over the Capcom Fighters channel.
What?
Did you not know that? During was it? I think it was Tokyo Game Show. They let Hi Fight take over the Capcom Fighters channel so that that he could put all the clips on that he always does.
That's sick.
Yeah. So there's definitely, it's not just in the US that it's. I don't know if that was a US led thing or a Japan led thing, but to me it was good news. It was like, oh, they've made an agreement with this influencer to make this, have the influencer make content on our channel or highlight content on our channel, do what he does, and it works. But I think what I'm saying is when a game releases, maybe they could work with influencers to help with the tutorials, is what I would call them,
Yeah. Just to touch on that, Guilty Gear already has something kind of like that. It's not like a full-blown tutorial system, but they have so you know how every fighting game kind of has like the combo challenges now, like and they range in difficulty from very easy to a little bit more advanced. Like, for example, KOF 13, the combo challenges in that game, those were definitely made by like a strong, clearly advanced fighting game player, because some of those, like even for pros, are super hard to do. Like they're just like, wow, these are some really cool combos. But then that's not really teaching you how to play the game. It's just teaching you combos. Now, Guilty Gear, on the other hand, they have a system. I don't know. It's not really a tutorial, but it'll have you do like some certain action, and then like you have to do it like let's say it says like instant block, Kai's air fireball, how many times can you do it out of 10? And then like for each time that you do it correctly, you get like a little star, and then you kind of set yourself like a goal, like, all right, this time I did it 7 times out of 10, I want to go for 8 times out of 10 next time. And you start to understand why they put these challenges, like, oh, it's teaching me how to instant block.
Right.
But not
so
a lot of people put that together. I get your point totally, and I agree. There should be more of it. But how it translates into a real match, that's where maybe they don't know how to really translate that, like literally from Japanese to English, how to translate that in a real match, or how to come up with those scenarios for yourself, so you know more than just that one situation. Guilty Gear, there's a lot of great tutorials out there.
I think it would be cool if in like training mode, or in tutorial, like whatever that tutorial mode can possibly be, if there was like similar to what Guilty Gear did, like let's say a normal, like how I talked about earlier, let's say a normal was designed to have a longer cancel win. Well, then rather than just putting it in, maybe put a way to show people why they did that. Like if they made Ken's low forward have a longer cancel window, put something in training mode where they make you hit confirm it 10 times, and
give you
like,
tips.
oh, okay, that's why they did that. Now I, like put these little challenges and maybe put a little blurb like, all right, this is hit confirming. If press the button if you see the hit, do the move. If you do it out and the character blocked, you fail. Or, not necessarily fail, but something to that effect, and maybe show some different, not just one situation. They could show different situations where they make you do challenges like that.
There's plenty of things to do. I just don't think it's their priority.
I agree with you. No, I agree. I mean, there's lots of, Javits, you're working in marketing now, so you've probably heard the term barrier to entry, right? So there's lots of barriers to entry in terms of fighting games, right?
Yep.
And one of the ones they've been focusing on really strongly is like, it's too difficult to win or whatever, right? And but I think the tutorials haven't actually reached. Some of them are pretty good. People always go, UNIST is amazing. Well, UNIST is like a big Bible, basically. So it's a lot of reading. It's a lot to get through.
It's great and overrated.
I like and overrated, right? What I do think it would be nice to have, the trials are fun, right? But it would be nice to have like the bread and butter combos. So like do this 10 times. First of all, you got to punish this guy. He's gonna do a sweep, and then you got to punish him with this combo, and you got to do it 10 times, and then you pass. Now go take that into the game, Or the other thing that I found really interesting. What is the game? Sorry, I always forget the name of the game. That game which is like it's kind of like Call of Duty, but it's a medieval kind of fighting game, and you can be a samurai and whatever, and it's For Honor. So For Honor, some of the tutorials for that were kind of interesting because they were videos, right? So you'd put the video on, and it would go, okay, this character is a zoner, and this is how the character was designed to be played, and this is just and it would show you like literally like how the character is designed to be played. It would give you that sort of like
their intention.
Normally you just pick up the intention, because when you come new to a fighting game, you have no clue. You just want to press a lot of buttons, right?
Yeah.
So
and some casual people aren't even interested. Some casual people they could care less about a tutorial.
They may not care, but a small 2-minute video is not that hard to wrap your head around. And
it shouldn't break the bank either. It's more like put the effort there.
And if you can conceptually get like the bigger picture, like, oh, all right, okay, so this character is about speed. Oh, all right, this character is about
you might just enjoy it,
keeping that person at bay. Well, it just gives you a little step up in terms of like, okay, now I sort of starting to understand fighting games a little bit better. It isn't just all about pressing buttons and combos. Like this is more about the neutral. This is more about the intention of the character, and you may end up playing the character in a completely different way. But as a starting place, it's not a bad idea to be able to like show somebody very quickly in 2 minutes. This is what this character is all about, and why they're designed the way they're designed. This is their kind of archetype. And I'm not talking about showing off frame data or hitboxes or any of that stuff. I'm just saying, like, conceptually, you probably want to like keep your distance and poke at them and whatever. Like that stuff makes sense to the average person, I think.
Sure.
So I feel like there are these various elements in all of the different games of like, yeah, that's kind of good, and 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 I'm waiting for one game to like bring it all together.
Everything.
And produce something which is enjoyable and also useful. Because a lot of them aren't that useful. Trials are great. I really enjoy Trials as a sort of mini game, but I never, whenever I finish a combo, I never go, let me do that 10 times, let me do that 100 times, let me do that every day so that I can implement it into my gameplay.
Does it feel like a chore, or does it feel like it's a valuable learning experience?
Well, I just think you could take the Trials model and like a bit like Javits was saying, and sort of have like almost like, okay, you got to do this one bread and butter 10 times in a row as a punish, and then you pass the trial, and then it's like, now go online.
Yeah,
I want to get Javits' points, and then we got about 5 minutes after that to close this out.
Yeah, just last thing to touch on the Trials. Mark was already kind of saying it, so I just think Trials in general should stop being just about combos and put a little bit more actual teaching as to teaching you something that you can actually use and articulate it clearly. Like, we are teaching you this because you will do this in this situation. I think if that's clear and engaging and fun, I think more people will want to learn more about the lab side of things, like the technical side of fighting games.
We got me and Javits in your corner to help if you got any questions. So I have one more question before we close out to both of you, and we got like 7 minutes. I wanted to keep this to an hour and a half, and we're there. I want to know if you have a positive feeling about Street Fighter V and all fighting games moving forward. Do you feel like we are on a successful path? Do you feel like maybe we're doomed? What do you think about the future of fighting games? Positively? Mark, I'd like you to go first.
Well, somebody somewhere must know something that I don't, because the amount of fighting games that have been pumped out over the last year or so has been extraordinary. And the amount of tournaments is overwhelming. So somebody somewhere knows something, right? Which would point towards there being fighting games being successful. Whether it be through sales, just by being fun games, or whether it be through esports, because both of those things, they just keep expanding. So I don't know. I do have a positive feeling. I think the Echo Fox news was a little sad, but I also think that with those teams, when you first come in, you kind of just sort of like pick up players, and then you have to kind of figure out for yourself, which ones
Ohana means family.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but I have a positive feeling. Yeah.
Cool, great. Mr. Javits, how do you feel, my friend, mi amigo? What is in your corazón?
I think fighting games are in a good place right now. There's a lot of different games to play. Street Fighter is still here. They're making improvements to it. Not the greatest game out there right now, but they have a successful tour that they've been doing well. They're doing a lot of things right. For a lot of the things that they've done wrong, they've also done a lot of things right. So Street Fighter, I think it's here to stay. I'm happy that they're addressing a lot of the issues. They just have to keep going on that path, and they'll be able to do more great things, and maybe set up everything that they've learned with Street Fighter V, have a solid, good start to be like for Street Fighter 6, whenever that may come. you know, hopefully not make as many mistakes as they did with Street Fighter Five. And with the other games, you know, they're Dragon Ball is doing well. This is only, it's crazy to think that Dragon Ball hasn't even been out a full year, and that game has done so much already in terms of how many characters it has. How, you know, they have their own, you know, I don't know what the tour is called, but the Dragon Ball with collecting the Dragon Balls thing. The game's doing a lot.
That's what it's called. That's what it's called, by the way. Collecting the Dragon Ball thing.
Yeah. So the collecting Dragon Balls thing, they did that. They did a lot of that. You know, in such a short period of time, in part because of the way, you know, CPT paved the way with that. Like they used that, you know, the good and bad from that as a model. So
He ain't lying.
you know, the games that are coming out going forward are, you know, they can, for better or worse, they can not make the same mistakes that Capcom did. So, you know, shout outs to Capcom, messing up all the times and helping out everybody else in the process. So, it's only good, man.
Capcom's bullet catcher, they just go out and they're the first to go.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeez.
sometimes if you're the pioneer, you're the one that's gonna be the first to trip. You know, it's like,
You know, dude, when back when I was in the military, if you're really good at your job, you had to do a lot more of your job for the same paycheck the person who's not very good at a job for, and you're more likely to jack it up and get in trouble because you're exposed to, because you're good, you're exposed to more opportunities to make mistakes. So
yeah. It's like, yeah, if you're the trailblazer, you're the one more likely to get burned first. So it's just the nature of the business, you know. So, but
right, you are.
To end it, I think fighting games are in a good place and they're in a good direction. I like where it's going. I'm excited for the new games that are coming out. A new Samurai Showdown is coming out. Dragon Ball is going to go into year 2. Who knows what they're going to do with that game? They've had a great year so far, and I'm sure they're already preparing for the next year. You know, all the characters that and maybe changing up the game a little bit. And Street Fighter is still going, so it's in a good place, man. I'm happy about it.
All right, well, I just want to say thank you very much to everybody tuning in. I hope you learned something. Thank you to you two gentlemen, BornFree and Javits. You need to check out BornFree's Twitch channel. You've probably already checked out his YouTube channel if you haven't already. Please, so many great interviews. He's an ambassador. He communicates with this whole community. It's an amazing, amazing person. I'm thankful to just have you around. And Javits, thanks for joining us. The amazing tech you put out on Twitter. Is there anything that I missed? Any other plugs y'all want to put out there?
No, man. Just make sure, you know, keep doing your thing. I get hyped every time I see your green screen back there. I know that you always put in content, so keep doing what you're doing and enjoy your trip, man. I know you're going away tomorrow, so
Oh yeah,
have a good time. Take a little break.
yeah, have fun.
I'm gonna be gone for about 2 weeks, but I can still do like conference calls like this. So, you know, maybe if you're interested in doing a how do you say, like just a run back on your stream, I can do that as well. Just give me a time frame. I'll translate it. And thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned something. I'm AutoMattock. Roll credits.
Thanks for having us.